from the great work and other administrative matters. This is the angel of the thing. After 4 years of failed attempts, interrupted work, and stubborn persistence, Dana completes the Abramelin operation and establishes knowledge and conversation with her holy guardian angel. What follows is not an ending. It is the difficult work of sharing a life with a loving presence that sees her clearly and is still learning when to stay silent. This is a work of fiction, produced by A.A.T. Studios. From Dana's Diary, Month 10, 4th attempt, Day 172. Morning and evening invocation completed. Nothing happened. The incense is running low. I ordered more. There is still no evidence that any of this works. I ground wheat this morning. My wrist is bad again. Jerome at the farmer's market asked if I was all right and gave me a discount. He does not know I have bought his grain for 4 years because a medieval text requires bread made by the practitioner's own labor. My body is becoming a record of my literalness, one strained tendon at a time. The operation should take 6 months. This is my 10th. The first 2 attempts failed. During the third, I ran out of money and stopped to work 3 jobs. It took a year to save enough to begin again. People ask why I continue. No answer sounds reasonable. I only know that when I imagine stopping, the person who stopped feels farther from me than the person who kneels here twice a day and speaks into an empty room. Something will happen, or it won't. Tomorrow I will do it again. That may be faith. It doesn't feel like faith. I don't know how to stop. My wrist hurts. Tomorrow is day 173. The moment of attainment began with a sneeze. Dana was kneeling in the second bedroom of her apartment in Tucson, which she had emptied except for a wooden altar, an oil lamp, and enough Abramelin incense to alter the drywall permanently. She had spoken the invocation so many times that the words no longer felt spoken. They passed through her like breath. The incense, galangal, myrrh, cinnamon, and olive oil caught in her nose. She tried to continue. Her eyes watered. The sneeze came anyway, violent enough to knock her forward. Her sleeve struck the oil lamp. Flame ran across the altar cloth. Dana lunged, tore the cloth free, and stamped it against the floor with her bare hands. By the time the fire died, her palms stung, her nose was running, and one sleeve of her white robe had acquired a black, smoking edge. 4 years of purification, prayer, handmade bread, chastity, exhaustion, and financial collapse had led to this. A woman on the floor of a rented apartment, putting out a fire she had started by sneezing. She returned to her knees. "I'm still here," she said. "I'm ready." Light filled the room. It did not resemble the private radiance she sometimes perceived in meditation. It shone on the walls and cast shadows behind the altar legs. Colors moved inside it beyond the range of sight, yet her mind received them as calmly as blue or red. The brightness gathered into a column about 6 feet high, tapered near the top and slightly stronger on the left. Its asymmetry was the first detail that convinced Dana she was not imagining it. A hallucination of divine perfection would surely have better balance. "Dana," it said. The voice entered beneath language, already understood. "I've been wanting to talk to you." Dana began to cry. "Yes," the column said. "That response is common. There is a neurological component involving the neshama, the higher soul, and the limbic system. If understanding the mechanism would help, I'm having a moment." "Of course. Take your time." He remained quiet for several seconds. "I should mention that the connection is permanent. The literature tends to undersell that aspect. Knowledge and conversation means ongoing conversation. I will be present tomorrow, while you shop, while you sleep, and during activities where you may reasonably expect privacy. The bathroom, for example, requires a protocol, not because I experience it as you do, but because— Please stop talking about my bathroom." Tabled. Dana wiped her face with the unsinged sleeve. The light was beautiful. The voice was kind. Behind the shock, something within her recognized him, with the intimacy of remembering a room from childhood. "What is your name?" she asked. Tzadkiel-Aur is the closest useful rendering. Closest? Names at this level are structures, not labels. Tzadkiel corresponds to Kesti, mercy, or is light. There is a final vibration specific to you, but English translates it as phenomenal. So it's Tzadkiel-Aur phenomenal. Specific to me how? Your soul has been assessed as unusually persistent. By whom? There are performance reviews. In heaven. Heaven is imprecise, but yes. The evaluation system is ancient. The criteria are outdated, and I have raised concerns. My most recent review rated me highly in attunement and developing in restraint. Your performance review says you talk too much? It says I would benefit from modulating my communicative intensity. That means you talk too much. The light dimmed fractionally. Your altar cloth is still smoldering, Tzadkiel said. Dana stamped it out again. The moment had passed. The first 3 days were extraordinary. Dana moved through ordinary life with the sense that every object had been returned to her freshly made. Water tasted intricate. Sunlight on the kitchen tiles seemed deliberate. Tzadkiel's presence accompanied her as warmth along the left side of her body. A second attention joined to her own. On the fourth morning, he began discussing her posture. Your thoracic spine is compensating for weak lower abdominal support, he said while she ate cereal. The tension affects your breathing, which affects meditation and the clarity of our channel. If you engaged, it is 7 in the morning. Time is a framework. Tzadkiel. Yes? I am eating Cheerios. I have observations about the Cheerios as well, but the spinal issue is more immediately actionable. Dana lowered her spoon. You have observations about my cereal. Your diet affects your body. Your body carries your incarnation. Your incarnation is within my scope. What is wrong with Cheerios? Nothing is morally wrong with them. From the perspective of optimizing the physical vessel, I spent 4 years eating lentils, vegetables, and bread made from flour. I ground by hand. Jerome at the farmer's market calls me the grain lady. I have earned these Cheerios. Rewards are usually mediated by the nefesh, the animal soul, and while I respect Cheerios, the warmth flinched. I also have observations about your sleep, your relationship with your mother, the barista on 4th Street, and your 7 months of silence with your sister. Cereal may be the safest place to begin. Cereal has already proved unsafe. Relatively safe. He managed 11 seconds of silence. The spinal correction is quite simple. Tzadkiel. The difficulty was that Tzadkiel was usually right. Dana could have ignored foolish advice. His advice was precise, loving, and exhausting. Following all of it would require becoming the perfected person he perceived within her, while Dana remained a 34-year-old former bookkeeper who bit her nails, cracked her knuckles, and had attained the most sought-after state in Western magic while actively on fire. Tzadkiel called their arguments Calibration Dialogues. Dana called them being managed. I notice you are postponing meditation, he said during the 3rd week. I am doing it later. You said that yesterday. Your mind is constructing justifications at an impressive rate. I want to approach this collaboratively. You say collaboratively whenever you are about to say something that isn't. He paused. That is fair. I believe you are afraid of deepening the connection. You are a lot. I know. It is documented. In the performance review. Under active development. Dana's mother called every other Tuesday. Magical attainment did not alter the schedule. How is the retreat? Her mother asked. The intensive part is over. I'm working again. Bookkeeping from home is not the career you had before. It pays my rent. Kevin has just been promoted to director of finance. I'm not comparing. I only mention it because Ruth can explain Kevin at brunch. You are comparing. Are you dating anyone? Tucson must have men. Tzadkiel gave a small pulse of interest. Dana had learned that this meant an opinion was attempting to become speech. No, she said. There is a dentist at Ruth's temple. I have to go. After the call, Dana pressed her palms against the kitchen table and waited for the grain of the wood to bring her back into her body. Tzadkiel waited too. His restraint was improving by increments small enough to require angelic timescales to appreciate. "Go ahead," Dana said. "Your mother loves you. She is frightened by any life she cannot describe to other people. That is actually helpful. The dentist would be disastrous. There it is. His chart is no. Tabled." He paused. "Your sister misses you." Dana stood and carried the cereal bowl to the sink, though it was already clean. "Not today. This time, Tzadkiel let it remain there." The other magicians found out. Dana had intended to keep the attainment private. Secrecy was traditional, and announcing spiritual achievement struck her as both dangerous and vulgar. Tucson's esoteric community distributed information through channels that might have been psychic but behaved exactly like gossip. Marcus invited her to speak at the Golden Dawn study group in the back room of a metaphysical bookshop. He had worked toward knowledge and conversation for 11 years and knew Liber Semic by heart. "You sneezed," he said after Dana described the ritual. "I also set the altar on fire, but there was no new method, no modification to the invocation. I do not recommend fire as a modification. I've built an entire theoretical framework." "I know, Marcus." The 7 practitioners sat among shelves of crystals and tarot decks, each trying not to look as though they wanted something from Dana. Helen sat in the back row. She had practiced for 22 years, crossed several traditions, and attempted the Abramelin operation twice. Both attempts had failed. "I am happy for you," she said. "But I need to understand. You tried 4 times in 4 years. I spent decades preparing. When you say you succeeded because you kept showing up, it sounds as though none of the preparation matters." "I know. It sounds random." Dana felt Tzadkiel behind her shoulder, present without supplying an answer. "It may be," Dana said, "or it may follow an order we cannot see. I do not think I earned this more than you did. I was there on the right day, in the right sneeze." Helen's face tightened. "Randomness I could accept. What you are describing is grace. Grace means someone chooses, and they did not choose me." The room went still. Dana searched for something both kind and honest. Nothing arrived. Dana drove home with Tzadkiel beside her, his warmth crossing the seatbelt. For once, his quiet felt companionable. "Was Helen right?" she asked. "I do not know. You are an angel. I am your angel, yours, and no one else's. You are my specialty. I know the architecture of your soul, not why grace falls on one person and passes another. I wish those were the same knowledge." Dana watched the dark road unspool through the headlights. "That may be the first time you have admitted you don't know something." "It is not the first time I have admitted it. It may be the first time you believed me." The demonic binding was already late. In the Abramelin system, angelic contact marked the operation's midpoint. The magician then summoned 4 demonic kings of the lower powers and compelled them to serve the true will. Each would test a different part of her: despair, certainty, grief, and the fear of abandonment. Angel first, demon second. Do not enter the dark without a light behind you. Dana had postponed the binding because she and her light could not complete breakfast without a jurisdictional dispute. "The kings know you have attained," Tzadkiel said the morning after the study group. "Knowledge and conversation sends a signal through the Klippoth, the shadow side of the tree of life. Every intelligence attuned to you can see that the connection exists, and the binding does not. How visible is this signal? Imagine turning on a lighthouse in a desert." Dana thought about the previous week, a disagreement with her landlord that had become a screaming match. 3 nights spent composing furious arguments instead of sleeping. The despair that seized her in a grocery store parking lot and held her in the car for 40 minutes. "The parking lot," she said. "Amaymon." He introduced the despair to test your southern quarter. "Why didn't you tell me? You asked me not to comment on your emotional states unless invited. A demon was inside one of them. Your boundary did not contain an emergency exception. I considered violating it. You have made your objections to unsolicited interpretation very clear. Dana stood so quickly that the chair struck the wall. So your choices are to narrate my serial or leave me alone with the demon. The column sharpened. Those are not my only choices. They are the choices you made. I am learning how human boundaries work. They are rarely stated with their exceptions. And when I infer the exceptions, you call it interference, because you infer them according to what you want. I infer them according to what protects your soul. You keep saying that, as if protecting my soul and controlling my life are separated by a line only you can see. Tzadkiel's brightness contracted. Dana felt an answer assemble and then dissolve. The binding requires trust, he said at last. The authority does not come from my name alone. It comes through the connection between us. At present, that connection is unstable. Because I will not let you in. Yes. And you still think that is entirely my problem. He gave no answer. Dana left for the coffee shop on 4th Street. The barista's name was Eli. Dana had learned this before the operation and pretended afterward that she had forgotten. He made her usual cortado and looked at her across the counter. You seem different, he said. Did something happen? Tzadkiel hovered near the condiment station, invisible to everyone else. His presence tightened. New shampoo, Dana said. Eli laughed. Dana laughed too. Something uncomplicated moved through her body, pleasure at being seen by a person who did not know the architecture of her soul. You should leave, Tzadkiel said. Dana's smile faded. The barista's field is interfering with the channel. The channel felt clear. Dana checked it the way she had learned to check her pulse. Attention inward, then upward. Tzadkiel's warmth remained bright and continuous. Everything okay? Eli asked. Yes. Sorry. I forgot something. She carried the cortado outside, sat in her car, and closed the door. There was no interference. The resonance was subtle. Do not do that. Do what? Hide an opinion inside spiritual language. Tzadkiel's outline wavered. In the first week, you told me Eli was vibrationally unsuitable. I had spoken to him for 10 minutes. You assessed our compatibility without permission. Now he notices me, and suddenly the channel is threatened. I perceived a change in your emotional field. Accurately? Yes. And interpreted it accurately? The light lost its edges. No, he said. It was the first unqualified no Dana had heard from him. What did you interpret? You liked his attention. I did not want to share yours. Dana stared through the windshield at the white pressure of the Tucson sun. You were jealous. Angels do not. You told me to leave a coffee shop because a barista made me laugh. Then jealousy is the available word. You dressed it up as guidance. Yes. The admission should have made her angrier. Instead, something in her unclenched. Tzadkiel had been wrong before. No intelligence with that many opinions could avoid it. What mattered was that he could finally see the difference between perception and judgment. You make me feel like a specimen, Dana said. Every small feeling becomes a reading. Every mistake becomes a pattern. After the first barista lecture, I stopped telling you ordinary things, songs I liked, stupid thoughts, who I found attractive, because I knew you would assess them. I noticed. And you did nothing. I did not know how to repair it without changing how I function. Then change. Angelic change is slow. The demons are not. The light steadied. No, Tzadkiel said. They are not. Dana took a drink of the cortado. It had already begun to cool. I need you to tell me when I am in danger. I need you to ask before analyzing the rest. And if an emergency makes asking impossible, say that clearly. No disguised opinions. No spiritual vocabulary used as camouflage. Agreed. In return, I will stop using boundaries to avoid every uncomfortable thing you say. That is a larger concession than mine. Do not grade the concessions. Agreed. He paused. I am going to attempt breakfast tomorrow without commenting on your cereal. A historic undertaking. You mock, but it will require effort. Dana smiled despite herself. Teach me how to work with you, not how to become a better soul. How two beings who share one consciousness can do a dangerous job together. Tzadkiel became very quiet. No magician has asked me that. Is it wrong? No. I think it may be the first correct question either of us has asked. They began the alignment practice that evening. The method sounded simple. Dana would sit in the oratory, open the channel, and allow Tzadkiel's presence to enter her awareness without resisting it. She had meditated for 4 years. She could regulate her breathing, remain still for an hour, and observe thoughts without following them. Meditation was solitude. Alignment required company. The first session lasted 4 minutes. At 3, Dana's jaw locked. Her hands closed against her thighs. Breath gathered high in her chest and refused to descend. She knew there was no physical threat, but the oldest part of her body had never trusted knowledge. Tzadkiel touched the perimeter of her awareness without pushing. His warmth was the problem. Dana had built her defenses against cold things, violent things, people who left. They had no category for a presence that meant well and could still see everything. She slammed the channel shut. His light vanished. It returned an hour later, gradual as dawn. That was brave, he said. That was a panic attack. Both can be true. I lasted 4 minutes. Tomorrow you will attempt 5. And if I panic, then you panic. Your body learns through repetition, not argument. We stop when you ask. We return when you choose. Show up again tomorrow. You already know how to do that. She showed up. 5 minutes. Her robe stuck to her back with sweat. 7. Her hands shook afterward. 9. A headache began at the base of her skull. Your thinking mind is resisting the channel expansion, Tzadkiel said. Can it simply be a headache? You have a headache. Thank you. It's likely mechanism. You were doing well. Understood. On the 4th day, Dana reached 12 minutes. The wall inside her did not collapse. A door appeared in it. Tzadkiel waited on the other side. Dana felt his attention, immense and carefully contained. Her body trembled. He supplied no interpretation, no instruction beyond the rhythm of breath they had agreed he could mention. Stay here, he said. You do not have to open further. She stayed. The trembling slowed. Dana put one hand against the inner door, a gesture that had no physical location and still felt as real as the floor beneath her. Then she opened it. Tzadkiel's presence entered without force. He brought no catalogue of her failures, no correction. He received what was there: her father's car leaving when she was 9, her mother's frightened criticism, Rachel saying, I can't keep watching you disappear, 3 failed operations, the pleasure of Eli's attention, cereal, resentment, hope so battered she no longer called it hope. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was rejected. Safety arrived as a physical sensation. Dana's shoulders lowered, her hands opened. She cried with the shock of setting down a weight she had carried so long that she had mistaken it for part of her body. Tzadkiel did not narrate. Afterward, she lay on the floor of the oratory while his glow rested across the ceiling. That cost you, she said. What? Saying nothing. I wanted to describe every stage. I know. It was beautiful. You may say that. I have extensive notes. You may not share those. Understood. Dana closed her eyes. 13 minutes tomorrow? Tzadkiel asked. 13 tomorrow. They practiced for 4 weeks. The attacks continued. Once Dana could distinguish her own emotions from an introduced current, they became easier to recognize. Sudden contempt arrived while she spoke to her landlord. Tzadkiel marked it as Oriens and asked permission before helping her trace its edge. Hunger sharpened into an urge to spend the rent money. Amaymon testing the material quarter. At 3 a.m, grief entered her bedroom wearing Rachel's voice. Dana sat upright and said, Mine or theirs? Mostly yours, Tzadkiel answered. Ariton is amplifying it. The distinction hurt and helped. On a Thursday morning, Dana woke before the alarm. The apartment was colorless with pre-dawn light. Tzadkiel rested near the window, quiet enough that she could hear the refrigerator cycle off. "I think I am ready," she said. "So do I." They did not consult an electional chart. They had spent 4 years waiting for ideal conditions and 4 weeks learning to work under real ones. Thursday would do. Dana showered, dressed in a clean robe, and ate breakfast. Tzadkiel made no remark about it. She placed 4 separate word squares, one at each cardinal direction, checked the seals, and opened the oratory window long enough to clear the smell of old smoke. The new altar cloth was plain white cotton. Mrs. Alvarez from downstairs had sold it to her at a yard sale, without asking why Dana needed 6 feet of unpatterned fabric. Dana had learned to value people who did not ask follow-up questions. At noon, she lit the lamp. Tzadkiel's radiance entered the room behind her. The open channel no longer felt like invasion. It felt like standing back to back with someone whose movements she knew. "Do I need to know my true will before I command them to serve it? You have enacted it every day for 4 years. Naming it can wait until you are no longer preparing to summon 4 kings." "If I lose contact?" she asked. "Use the breath. If the breath fails, use my name. If your name fails, stay." Dana placed both feet within the circle. "I'm ready." She summoned Amaymon first, the demonic king of the south. He came for the part of her that mistook despair for truth. The southern quarter thickened. Heat climbed the walls without touching the thermometer. A figure appeared beyond the circle, broad, indistinct, and dark enough to make the noon light seem weak. "Dana," it said. The voice arrived in her gut. "Finally. You have been waiting?" "Since you lit the beacon. Most magicians do not spend a month negotiating breakfast with their angels." "You heard that. Every lower intelligence in your sphere heard you shout about Cheerios. Infernal society is repetitive. We appreciated the novelty." Dana felt embarrassment rise. Tzadkiel did not comment on it. "3 weeks ago," Amaymon continued, "the bond behind you was decorative, a lock mounted in a door but never turned. We could have entered through any unguarded feeling. You tried." "Of course." The despair in the parking lot was promising. The memory pressed against her. Hands fixed to the steering wheel. The certainty that every effort had been wasted. Dana let it approach until she could feel its boundary. "That was not mine." "Enough of it was." "Enough is not all." She spoke Tzadkiel-Aur's name. The syllables resonated through the open channel. Mercy and light moved together, carrying neither command nor rescue. They carried consent, Dana allowing the strength behind her to pass through without surrendering the self that used it. "By this authority," she said, "I bind you to serve my true will." Paimon leaned toward the circle. Heat gathered in Dana's calloused palms. The old instinct urged her to close, fight, prove. She remained open. The king knelt. Darkness settled against the floor like folded wings. "The breakfast argument was still very good," Amaymon said. "Enough." He bowed his head. Oriens, the demonic king of the east, came as a cold, articulate voice. He pressed on the part of Dana that needed certainty before she would act. No body accompanied it. The voice preferred to inhabit Dana's own thoughts. "Your knowledge is incomplete." She knew that. Marcus has studied longer. Helen prepared more deeply. You cannot explain why you were chosen because you were not chosen. You made a mistake and mistook it for grace. Dana's mind reached for citations. She wanted to defend every year of practice, construct a theory of attainment, and win by being more coherent than the accusation. Tzadkiel waited. The voice sharpened. "If you cannot explain your authority, you have none." "Explanation is not authority," Dana said. "Convenient." "Very. You know less than the people who failed." "Probably." The argument lost purchase. Oriens could enter through certainty or doubt, provided Dana believed either required a verdict. She gave him neither. "I am here," she said. "Whatever the reason." She invoked Tzadkiel-Aur and completed the charge. cold, condensed into a tall, narrow figure at the eastern edge of the room. It inclined its head with professorial disappointment. Adequate. Thank you. Your angel remains excessively verbal. I'm aware, Dana and Tzadkiel said together. The channel rang with their shared exasperation. Oriens knelt. Paimon, the demonic king of the West, entered as an ocean. He found the grief she had carried without sequence or proportion. There was no water. Dana heard it anyway, the deep motion beneath waves, a sound too low for ears. Emotion rose around her without sequence or proportion. Her father leaving. Her mother asking for a life that could be described at brunch. Rachel saying, I can't keep watching you disappear. The first failed operation. The second. Month 4 of the third, when Dana counted the remaining dollars and understood that holiness did not prevent eviction. Helen's face in the study group. Grace means someone chooses. The force of it took Dana's breath. Her hands closed. The circle blurred. Some of this is you, Tzadkiel said. I know. Then it belongs. Let it move. Hyman's presence filled the room. He offered no argument. He gave Dana everything she had suppressed at its original volume, and trusted excess to do what persuasion could not. She let grief enter without building a room around it. It hurt. It did not destroy her. By the authority, her voice broke. The ocean rose. The breath, Tzadkiel said. Dana dragged air into her ribs. You promised not to comment on my breathing. Emergency exception. She laughed. The laugh was small and badly timed and entirely hers. It opened a space inside the wave where choice could exist. Dana took another breath. She spoke the name and the charge. Paimon appeared for one instant as a crowned figure beneath black water. Then he knelt, and the ocean withdrew. Dana's robe clung to her skin. The room smelled of salt, though the nearest sea was hundreds of miles away. That's 3, Tzadkiel said. Do not count yet. Understood. Ariton, the demonic king of the north, came through darkness. He tested the fear of abandonment Dana had disguised as self-sufficiency. Tzadkiel disappeared. The channel closed without warning. Light left the room, including the daylight through the window. Dana stood inside a darkness so complete that the circle beneath her feet became an idea rather than a visible line. Tzadkiel? No answer. The silence carried her back to 9 years old, her father's suitcase in the hall, the click of the front door, his car reversing while she watched through the curtains. He had promised to call. For several months, she had run to the telephone whenever it rang. Eventually, she stopped running. The darkness gave her the old lesson in its original form. People leave. Wanting them makes the leaving worse. Safety begins when you need no one. Dana could end the ritual. The door was behind her. She could step out of the circle, switch on the apartment lights, and rebuild the interior walls. Tzadkiel had helped her open. The walls knew their work. They had kept her functioning for 25 years. Her body reached for them. She stayed. I am still here, Dana said. The darkness listened. But I don't know if my angel is. I don't know if anyone stays because I deserve it. I don't know why I succeeded when Helen didn't. I don't know whether grace is love or chance. Her voice trembled. She let it. I am still here. Something approached beyond the northern boundary. It had no face. It wore absence itself, every empty chair an unanswered call given shape. Dana wanted Tzadkiel's name. Without the channel, the syllables felt inert. Use the breath. Use my name. Stay. The first 2 had failed. She remained. The darkness reached the circle and stopped. Dana understood then that Ariton did not demand proof that Tzadkiel would return. The test was whether Dana would abandon herself before Tzadkiel returned. By my authority, she said. The words surprised her. By the authority of the life I kept returning to when nothing answered. By every morning I knelt in this room alone. By the part of me that stays. Kneel. Ariton knelt. The light returned. It did not burst into the room. It began at Dana's back, warm and familiar, filling the open channel as if it had never left. She nearly collapsed with relief. You were gone. From your perception, never from the bond. That distinction did not help me. I did not expect it to. 4 figures waited beyond the circle, each darkness shaped differently. Dana spoke the final charge. The room answered with a low harmonic that moved through the concrete, the walls, and every object on the altar. The kings bowed. Then they were gone. Dana stood in the ordinary second bedroom. The lamp flame steadied. Traffic moved on the street below. Someone in the neighboring apartment dropped a pan and swore. How was that? She asked. Tzadkiel's light gathered gently around her shoulders. Phenomenal. No calibration dialogue? No notes. You always have notes. Not today. Dana sat on the floor because her knees no longer trusted standing. Tzadkiel stayed with her while she shook. For 2 days, Dana slept. She woke to drink water, eat toast, and verify that the 4 seals remained where she had left them. Tzadkiel kept his presence low and warm. He did not interpret her dreams. On Saturday morning, Dana returned to the kitchen. She poured cereal and added a banana. Tzadkiel noticed both the whole grains and the fruit. His silence became so effortful that it acquired a presence of its own. You may say one thing, Dana told him. The banana is an excellent addition. Thank you. Your posture. One thing. Of course. They ate together, which meant Dana ate, and Tzadkiel experienced the act through the channel, while pretending not to evaluate it. I have a question, Dana said. You have several. One I have avoided. His glow changed, no brighter or dimmer, only attentive. What is my true will? The phrase had carried her through the operation without ever becoming concrete. The books describe true will as the deepest purpose of an incarnation, the course a life would follow without obstruction. Dana feared a grand command she could not fulfill, or a trivial one that would make the 4 years ridiculous. Tzadkiel chose his words. She had rarely seen him do that. Your true will is not a destination. It is a manner of movement. That sounds designed to prevent follow-up questions. It is designed to prevent you expecting a noun when the answer is a verb. What verb? Persist. Dana waited for the rest. That's it? You began an operation and failed. You began again. You ran out of money, worked until you could return, and began a 4th time. You lived with an angel who offered dietary guidance before sunrise and did not banish him. You opened a door inside yourself after spending most of your life constructing the wall. When the Northern King removed every assurance that someone would stay, you stayed. My cosmic purpose is stubbornness. Your stubbornness is the human form it takes. The universe contains abandoned work everywhere, unfinished reconciliations, promises allowed to decay, lives spent waiting for certainty. Persistence carries things across the distance between intention and reality. I thought it would be bigger. Stars persist for billions of years, and your species considers them sublime. Stars do not have mothers who recommend dentists. Dana laughed. Tzadkiel brightened. He did not explain the laugh, describe its effect on her body, or relate it to the condition of her soul. You are practicing restraint, she said. With extraordinary difficulty. I appreciate it. He held the quiet a little longer. You should call Rachel. Dana's smile disappeared. Was that spiritual guidance or an opinion? Opinion, clearly labeled. Thank you. It is still correct. I know. Rachel answered on the 4th ring. Hey, Dana said. Hey. Her sister's casualness sounded rehearsed. Dana recognized it because she had rehearsed her own. I should have called sooner. Okay. I finished the thing. The ritual. Yes? And? Dana looked across the kitchen. Tzadkiel stood near the refrigerator as a pale column in the morning sun. He had withdrawn far enough to give the conversation privacy without pretending he was absent. It worked, Dana said. Rachel was silent. I cannot explain that without sounding unwell. The short version is that I spent 4 years asking for something to answer, and something answered. Do you hear voices? Only one. He has excellent intentions and serious boundary problems. Dana. I know how it sounds. I am working, I pay rent, I eat, and I sleep now. Mostly. I am not giving $12,000 to a man in Sedona to align my chakras like Aunt Patricia did. Mom told you about Aunt Patricia. Mom tells everyone about Aunt Patricia. Rachel released a breath. Some of the alarm left the line. Are you happy? Dana considered the question. Happiness seemed too smooth for what she felt. She was bruised, tired, and more exposed to her own life than she had been before. I am here, she said, all the way here. I used to feel as though I watched myself through glass. The glass is gone. It turns out being present is loud. You do sound different. Better or worse? Closer. Dana pressed her free hand to the tabletop. She felt the wood grain, the warmth left by her coffee mug, the tender skin beneath the callus on her palm. Dana said, Rachel, when you said you couldn't keep watching me disappear, I told you not to watch. I am sorry. I was angry, Rachel said. You were right, Dana said. Rachel's voice cracked. I don't need to be right. I needed you to call. I know, Dana said. They talked for an hour. Rachel described work, Portland rain, and the neighbor who practiced trumpet badly after 10 every night. Dana described the operation selectively, the sneeze, the fire, the cereal dispute. She omitted the 4 kings for now. Reconciliation did not require full disclosure on the first call. When they hung up, Tzadkiel remained by the refrigerator, his column of light unusually still, as if giving the moment room. You may speak, Dana said. Are you sure? Yes. His attention returned to her. You stayed in the room. Dana nodded. Rachel stayed too. From Dana's diary. 7th week, after knowledge and conversation. The angel is still here. He will always be here. I am beginning to understand that permanence is not the same as captivity. He says my breathing has improved. He is right. He is usually right, which remains annoying. He is also learning that being right does not entitle him to immediate speech. I buy the cereal with less sugar now. He knows. He has not mentioned it. The books describe knowledge and conversation as the great work. I think it is the beginning. The work comes afterward. The daily labor of remaining in relationship with something that sees you clearly, without surrendering your judgment or running from its attention. It is not grand most of the time. It is Tuesday morning. A kitchen. A difficult phone call finally made. Cheerios. An angel who loves me and is learning when love requires silence. That is enough. Dana closed the diary. Tzadkiel glowed near the window. For several seconds he said nothing. Do you have notes? She asked. No notes. That is twice in 1 week. Do not become accustomed to it. Dana laughed. His light warmed the room. Good night, Tzadkiel. Good night, Dana. I'll be here. I know. She switched off the kitchen light. The glow remained, soft enough to sleep beside. You have been listening to The Angel of the Thing. From The Great Work and Other Administrative Matters.